Hi, welcome to Inside the Moms Club, where being a mom is the coolest place to be. Here in the Moms Club, we believe that what embarrasses you now will make a great story later. And let's face it, you don't laugh sometimes, you're gonna cry. Join us in having a good laugh together. I'm Monica Samuels. You are now inside the Moms Club, your private destination for all things mom. Welcome, moms. Welcome to Inside the Moms Club. I'm your host, Monica Samuels, and I am here today with my co-host, Lisa Morris. Hello, Lisa. Lisa is, my regular co-host is Julie Orchid. She is not with me in Los Angeles today. Lisa is my sister. And here's how Lisa got this coveted role as my co-host today when Julie couldn't make it. Lisa was a Zoomer mom frequently on the show, and I always had this rule that I explained to everyone. You get one question, because we're limited on time sometimes, unless I say, well, do you have another question, of course. And Lisa just could never help herself. If we turned it over to her, then she just started asking a lot of questions. So I said, we need a co-host here. Julie is not going to be able to join us, so...
Well,
here we go.
Help it.
Now you've already made your way into the co-host chair, so don't get any bright ideas that you're going to move over here, because that's where we're going to draw the line on that one.
Well, okay. Well, I'm always second place.
No, she's a middle child.
I am.
She's going through this whole middle.
That's right.
That's
I am
a
a middle
constant
child
thing with her. Yes.
Well, it's only because she was always the smartest sister, but I'm the most fun. So it just depends on what you're going to put as important, right?
Well,
which is why I made a great third grade teacher, because you don't have to be that smart to teach third grade. They're going to hear it again and again. I always told myself, this is not the last time they're going to hear this, so it's okay. They're not quite getting it. But yes, I'm very inquisitive, and I always think of something else I want to know.
Oh, I hope for all of you moms out there who are third grade teachers, just know that we
think you're smart.
Very smart.
Just wasn't one.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you are.
That's why she's retired as a third grade
I don't do it
teacher.
Anymore.
She's now doing something else.
Yes, I am.
So,
still with kids and still with schools.
You're now in sales.
Yes, I work in educational travel. So if you're a student and gets invited to go to Washington, D.C. with their teacher, you should let them go. It's really, it's such a growing experience.
You should especially let them go if Lisa's your account manager and she gets credit
for it. If I'm your
it.
Salesperson.
Yes, because then she gets to go to Mexico on vacation at the end of the year, which she's gotten to go every year, so she's really good at it. So, so you went from one career, from teacher to...
It was a good segue because I get to work with teachers in school still, and I also understand what it's like to be in the classroom and what it's like to work with the principals, and kind of, a lot of teachers are hesitant. They're like, I don't want to... My principal won't let me. And I understand sometimes they won't. And I don't push them like some people and be like, who cares what your principal thinks? I'm like, I don't want to get you fired over a trip. It's not that good. But, it's really a lot of fun. And they really, really love, because teachers are big into the aha moment. You want to see that yourself. And this is a way to see it in the field, like you're actually there.
Well, you're a good salesperson. That's very good. Well, I feel very honored today that I'm sitting between today two teachers. I mean, I feel very honored. I'm sitting next to a very smart teacher.
Yes.
And evidently a very subpar, not too smart teacher. So I mean, what an honor today.
But the students loved me.
Let me introduce our guest, because she's a special ed teacher. And she's also a radio personality. She appears on KFI AM 640. She has one of the top radio shows there. And she's the host of the very popular Saturdays with Tiffany, which streams online from 5 to 7 on iHeart Radio. Please join me in welcoming Tiffany Hobbs. Welcome to the Moms Club.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The aha moment, right?
Yes,
Personified.
yes.
There we go. Aha. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I enjoy what you do as a platform, and I'm just grateful to be a part. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being with us. So you teach 8th and ninth grade special ed.
I do. Special education for students who have learning challenges that are usually closely connected to some sort of behavioral challenge as well, emotional disturbance. So I have the kids who unfortunately don't fare well in the public setting and then have been given this alternative setting to be able to recoup what they've lost, to re-engage with their learning. So it's a challenging group. I've taught public, I've taught elementary and high school. This by far is my favorite group.
Wow.
I am clearly insane that I love 8th and ninth graders anyway.
Well, we love people that love 8th and ninth graders, because
Yes.
we find some moms out there find that once their children get to that age, they're happy to send them off to school.
You're looking for the
teachers-
receipt to send them back.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, they don't give you the same feedback that in elementary school. I used to say I'm a star in my classroom, but when the middle school teacher, it's not cool to be fawning over your teacher as much. So
You know, I fortunately experienced the opposite in my class. My kids are too close to me. They love me too much. They know I'm here today, and they are looking forward to listening in later when I play the podcast in the classroom. So,
that's great.
you know, like I said, I'm very fortunate to have this group of kids.
So how did you go into radio? I mean, from a teacher to you're doing this and that, and how do you do both?
Well, you know, talking is talking, right? I'm talking in front of a classroom. I am speaking on a microphone, and they are very similar, require similar skills. You got to hook people and you got to keep their attention. But as far as how I got into radio, I started doing radio right out of college. I went to USC, and I didn't do radio at my university, but after I was linked with people who were doing college radio. So I was a featured segment. I would go on and do little side hosting or fill-in gigs. And then it just transformed. I did podcasting. Then I was asked to come in many years later to work at iHeart and KFI to do a weekly segment with one of the hosts, Mo Kelly, who has the Later with Mo Kelly show from Monday to Friday on KFI. And so that weekly segment, after about a year and a half, actually a little bit less, about a year, blossomed into my own opportunity with hosting on the weekends and also filling in for hosts on the weekdays. And it then transformed into me having my own show on Saturdays.
Wow.
So
That is cool.
it does require a lot of time management. I work Monday through Friday teaching. And as you know, that is a very labor intensive job. You're not off.
no.
But because it's something that I love, it doesn't feel like work, and neither does radio.
Wow. Well, you're very fortunate that you can manage both of those, because that's not easy.
It's not.
So, well, let's go back to sort of the teaching piece.
Sure.
Were you teaching during COVID?
I was.
What
I
was
was
that
teaching.
like?
I taught a private pod of kindergartners.
Oh, no.
I was teaching elementary at the time, and our school went online. It went virtual. And at the time, I just wasn't really... I didn't really too much care for the structure that was set up at the school I was at. And I was looking for an out, to be honest. This was the perfect way to move on. And so when I left, I was contracted by a private company to do, to do pod teaching with this elementary school, which I did for the entirety of that 2020-2021 school year. It was a converted garage in Redondo Beach. We called it the Little Schoolhouse on Avenue E. And we had all of everything that we could need. And it was a full curriculum. And it was in person. So these kindergartners who needed that social interaction, as did I, to be honest, we got what we needed, and I was able to provide that education for them. Now those kids are in 5th grade.
Oh my
wow.
gosh.
And I
it's
know
hard to
it is
believe.
insane. And I have been told by their parents that they are at the top of their class, and they
Well, of
attribute that
course.
to kindergarten.
Well, that's good. And it's good you got to do it
true.
in person, because I've heard all the nightmare stories about about Zoom learning, especially with little kids. And occasionally it was their parents that were part of the problem, like
Yes.
wandering in and out, or handing them a bowl of cereal, or like not treating it like school.
Yes.
It was
There was no
very
structure.
very unconventional, unprecedented times is what we say. And the fact that these children were being asked to adapt, we were asking things that adults weren't able to do. So to be able to provide some sort of normalcy for them just was an honor. It was an absolute honor.
I would say so, because, there's so much in the littler kids. It's just actually seeing their facial expressions, how they're sitting. That's
Yeah.
where if they're getting what you're doing. And if you're on a screen, for you to analyze it to that level is really impossible. And I bet that's why they're the top of their class, because they got to have that kind of education with such a wonderful teacher. So
Thank you.
They were very blessed.
They were. And I was. I got a lot from that interaction, and I keep in touch with them. I look forward to the Christmas cards and the announcements every year.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that is great.
So in your schooling that you teach now, are you in an alternative school environment? Is that where you teach at an alternative school? Do you have just certain hours? So to do this radio thing, you don't have to be there 8 hours and then do this, or do you?
I do.
Wow.
I am required. I am contracted through Los Angeles Unified School District to provide the full day of curriculum. And then when I leave, I go home and I work on school-related things. And I also plan my radio show for Saturday and my weekly segment on Wednesdays. And so time management as a teacher is something that is drilled in.
Yes.
And I drill into my students as well. And I have to adopt those same ideologies so that I can be successful. But it takes a lot. And I do have to make time for myself to, to do the things that are outside of both of those careers. But it's a balance that I love. I feel so fortunate. People really want the opportunities that I've been given. And I don't take them lightly or for granted. So I don't want to squander them or do them kind of half out. So I give my all. It does result in some exhaustion. I'll be honest, but I definitely reserve the time for myself to be able to kind of rejuvenate. Sundays are my day.
I was going to say, when is your time for yourself? It's
Sundays.
like 1 to 3 a.m. on Monday morning.
Definitely that. I'm a night owl for sure.
So what kind of support do teachers get? Like, it's a pretty intensive job.
It is.
And I mean, the fact that you're doing another job on top of it, which we'll get to that in a second, but how do you feel like they're supported enough, or what's...
No. Oh God, no.
And that's why a lot of them are quitting.
Yeah.
After COVID, there was a huge drove of them that just left the profession, especially the older ones that had no idea how to use a smart board or any of the technology. They're like, oh, this is just too much.
Absolutely.
And then they don't have enough, so they've got bigger classrooms. So I'm
Right.
sure you probably have a bigger class size than you may have expected.
Yeah, and it's fluid. My class size is fluid because we admit all year. So I could have anywhere from 10 to 16 students because it's an alternative setting, it's special education. So I don't have the full class size afforded to public schooling or even other private schools. But the support that we get at my school is very unique. It's a family-run business. They've been in operation for 43 years now, and they have built their business on support of the teachers, of the staff, of the families, of the students. So I feel very enveloped with support and love and affirmation. I can't say the same for other schools I've worked at, which is why I am here. And I love this particular school. But overall, teachers as a whole, oh no, there is a huge lack of support. And like you said, it really speaks to the poor retention of teachers and this turnover, this high turnover rate. It's because teachers do not feel underappreciated. They feel overworked. And I know those are adages that are often said, but they're true. I don't think you'd be getting so many people saying the same thing across the board nationally if it weren't true. So teachers need that support, and they need to still feel like a whole person, not that their lives are just indebted to the classroom. I have that balance. Like I said, it is a unique situation. I have not always had that. And I feel for educators who are navigating that struggle.
So as a parent, then, as a mom, and I'm taking my kid into the classroom, what advice would you give us to support the teacher?
Well, because I heard a lot of the problems are the parents.
Yes.
Oh,
You moms out
Don't
there,
be those.
don't be the problem.
parents love their children and they want what's best. And that is not always separated from emotion, or emotion comes into play, I should say, a lot more than maybe logic should at times, or deferring to the expertise of the educators. But it really does take that village idea. And so that you are even asking what can parents do is just a testament to your own empathy. And I thank you for that. First and foremost, donate Kleenex and Lysol wipes. We need Lysol wipes and Kleenex and copy paper.
I couldn't do that.
Oh my gosh. Once you get that down, just check in with the staff, check in with the teachers, be a present parent. Parents who start strong and then fade, we don't like those. We want parents who are present, who are not over encroaching and not trying to rule the classroom, but who make their presence known, who want to be involved, who want to have those check-ins about where their student is, because that's the way that we can check that progress and possibly implement new strategies. So just being present and being communicative is a huge thing. Also, respecting the hours of operation. Don't text the teacher at 10 p.m. asking about homework. Don't text at 8 p.m. asking about tomorrow.
I was one of those. Maybe I did
You
that.
know, that's better than the parent who doesn't check in.
Yes.
And also,
I feel better.
boundaries are important. So
Yeah,
just
no, that is true.
respecting it.
Now, you're one in a million. I don't know of any other teacher in America, and I could be wrong if you're that teacher in America who has an extremely successful, popular radio show on top of being a teacher. But, I mean, that's extraordinary.
It is.
So tell me, it's hard. I can imagine if I had a radio show like that, even doing, what you do, you have to prepare for it. Because I've listened to your show, and it's like, okay, well, we just had the World Series. And not only does Tiffany tell you it's the World Series, she tells you, like, the 4 plays into the 3rd inning, this happened. It's like a very detailed kind of thing. And you have to keep up with all of that.
You do.
And so how do you prepare for that?
Goodness. I have a wonderful producer. Kayla Austin is my producer, and she really just is my backbone. She brings me relevant articles and information that I then can weave into my show. We work very well together. I pull things, she pulls things, and all of those topics are relevant to what our listenership is interested in. It keeps people abreast of local news, national news, things that you might not know. And while it is challenging to kind of really kind of parse through. There's so much information that we're in information overload, right? It makes for a very fun and exciting experience. I get a thrill out of creating my show and being able to kind of put the topics in, a format. I love it. But I'd be remiss if I didn't attribute a lot of the success of the show to my producer.
Yes, I feel the same way about my producer, Lori D. Muslow, who's not with us today, but no, she's around here actually. Their producers are very, very important.
Yes.
Well, for example, this week, we're from Dallas. And so I imagine that you'll be talking about, does anybody bring any Kleenex to this show, by the way?
Oh, Luka
Doncic going to the
Luka.
Lakers.
Crushed.
We're so
Oh.
upset.
Crushed.
I mean, I'm so upset that I really had to pull it all together to get up for today.
Just for today.
I don't know that I'll ever be the same, to be
Monica's
honest with
not
you.
stopped talking about it, but
I
I will
haven't.
say I
I'm
only watched
obsessed.
the Mavs for Lucas. So
Me too. I don't care now.
I mean, I'm like I'm
They can just
like
go.
a fan like the Taylor Swift fans are for the Chiefs.
Yes.
I am the Doncic fans of
Yes.
the Mavs. So I don't know. This is very traumatic. But I'm sure y'all are going to have lots of.
I'm just throwing the towel. And you know what? I've just got to be a Los Angeles fan all the way around. 'Cause let's
Oh,
face
don't
it,
you go jumping.
No,
Don't you do that. You
know
stay
what?
loyal.
No, well, hey, the Dodgers, the Lakers.
I love
we
how
get
she
all the
says it
big-
that way. The Dodgers,
Well,
the
I'm-
Lakers.
You don't understand being from Dallas. All of our teams go nowhere, and we still act like they're going to do something.
Yes,
I know.
we've
Your
had-
poor
Like this year,
Cowboys.
the Cowboys,
We've had-
and then
Your
the
poor
Rangers,
Cowboys.
I don't even
everybody
wanna-
lets us down.
Well, at least the
You
Rangers.
know, at least they're consistent.
yes,
That's true.
yes,
That's true.
yes.
So we're very happy for you. But well, yeah,
No.
Yeah.
happy for you. Not really. Not really.
I can tell you're being honest about that one.
Moving on. You
Very
can't tell I'm
genuine.
obsessed that I got into this topic to begin with.
You know what's funny, really quick? I saw today on social media a wedding party that was stopped while the announcement about Luka was made. They were in the reception getting ready to do the dance, and the groom found out that Luka was traded. They're in
no.
Dallas, and they stopped the entire wedding. The music cut. It was like something out of a TV show, and the entire wedding party and guests just went completely ballistic. So I understand.
Yes.
Do you know how we
yes.
feel?
I know
Yes.
how you feel.
Yes.
Yes.
Except that you're
I'm
going to
a-
be on. You're
I'm a
gonna be on the
Clipper
winning
fan.
side. Oh, you're a
okay.
Clipper
I'm a
fan.
Clipper fan.
Okay.
I have no dog in the fight.
Okay. Well, that's
You know,
good to hear.
I'm used
Yes.
to pain.
We can talk later. We'll get you more tissues.
Yes, exactly.
So your show, so it can go anywhere from, yay, we just scored the biggest trade in history,
Sure.
to like the fires in LA.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
you guys have been through, like, talk about ups and downs of a community. And
Yeah.
I was at a dinner party, speaking of trading people, I was at a dinner party the other night in my neighborhood, and there's like, oh, all these people are moving here from the Palisades.
Mm-hmm.
More people, again, from California are coming to Austin
Yes.
because they lost everything, and they're tired of, what's happening here. So
If
what's
they
that
were
like?
if people were already on the fence about their loyalty to California, this was the final straw. Not just the tragedy of the fires, but the political climate as well, for people deciding, I don't necessarily want to stay in this state anymore. I'm looking for something different. And so there's been kind of it's suggested that there is a wave of people, there's a wave of people who are leaving, and that could continue. And Texas is one of the foremost places. Arizona is another. And then they're going up north as well into Washington and Oregon. But yeah, the fires were on the brink of again, I used the word unprecedented earlier, but an unprecedented tragedy, the costliest in our history, one of the worst natural disasters in the United States ever. And we report on that. We've been talking ad nauseum about that. This week, I plan to talk about the mobile home park that went up in flames, unfortunately. It was a little slice of heaven, people said, and affordable living right on PCH with beautiful views. And their entire community burned to the ground, save for one mobile home of the 160 or so. And I have a good friend of mine who was interviewed by the LA Times. His name is Alec Edwards. He is a fire captain who was off that day, and he stayed behind as he sent his wife and toddler daughter to safety. He stayed behind to try and fight for that mobile home park. And sadly, he was just outrun by the flames. So that's something we talk about. Human interest stories are everything, and people want to connect to the material. And this has been just a really sad opportunity to connect to people. But we've also seen a lot of humanity, a lot of the best of humanity with donations and with sympathy and people coming together to support one another from the Palisades to Altadena, sharing their stories and just really making this a collective experience, not something that is just relegated for those who have unfortunately become victimized by it. We're all in this together, so to speak.
And there's some stories you don't even think about. Like, we interviewed a mother and daughter who'd won Grammys, and so they lost their home in the fire. And I talked to her, the daughter, a week ago, and she had the flu that day, and so she was sick. And they're calling her, "You got to get out of the house." And she said, "You decide, like, what am I going to take? I'm sick. I have 10 minutes to figure it out." And she said, I said, well, do they replace Grammys and Oscars and Emmys if they get burned? She said, yes, they do, actually.
Yeah, they do.
But she said, I took my Grammys with me, but my mom didn't take hers because she said, oh, we'll be back in 3 days.
Oh, man.
And so everybody, but just things like that. People don't think about, like, my husband and I, if we were in that situation, what would we take?
Right.
It can affect all of us. In fact, for those of you thinking of moving to Austin, I learned through all of this that we are the third most likely city to go down with a fire like that.
Oh.
We're subject to wildfires too. So
Are you trying to detract people from coming to
no,
your town?
it's lovely. No.
Wait a minute.
Not at all.
That's what it seems like. You can come to Horseshoe Bay. I live an hour outside of there, and it's lovely.
Thank you.
Well,
Yes.
Cautionary tale.
huge
Austin
lake,
is
Right.
lovely and welcoming as well. Don't get me wrong. I just want you to be prepared and think about it.
But they'll trade an earthquake for a tornado.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, tornadoes a whole.
You can't live anywhere
to
and
show
not
you
have something.
that is true.
Right. Every place
Today
has
we were
something.
my sister and I were talking about it. We were sharing with someone that we were talking with about the difference between the weather here and in Texas. And Lisa's like, yeah, there's tornadoes there. There's lots of tornadoes. And she said, but I've never seen one. I said, Lisa, we were in a tornado.
I forgot.
She forgot about it. But we were at DFW Airport.
Yep. I have
waiting.
a story.
We were sitting at the bar. Well, we just happened to be there. We weren't there for a drink. And there was a TV in front of us. Their CNN says, breaking news. There's a
Tornado at
tornado
the
heading
airport.
over DFW. We're like, we're at DFW. So we had to get in the bathroom as the shelter.
Yeah.
and waited out there.
Have you been in that shelter too?
No, I've not been in that shelter. I've definitely been at that airport. And I was at that airport when there was a tornado. Now, the tornado warning actually was issued while we were in the air. We were just taking off. And the pilot says, and I love a window seat. The pilot says, if you're sitting next to the window, look out of your seat on this side of the plane, which happened to be my side, and look down and you'll see the top of the funnel. So I look over and I see a funnel cloud, and I'm looking through the top of it into the eye of this tornado. And the pilot's like, isn't it cool? You hear him, isn't this the best thing ever? And I'm like, no, move away. I don't want to see this anymore. But yes, I do enjoy Texas.
Well, wow, you're not only a host of a show, you're an eyewitness on the scene reporter.
I'm an amateur meteorologist at this point,
in the big middle of it. Well, Tiffany, we have some moms with us and a daughter today who are our Zoomer moms, and they have some questions for you. So please welcome our Zoomer moms. Welcome to the Moms Club.
Hi, guys.
Hi, everybody.
Well, I'm going to introduce each one of you, and if you want to tell Tiffany a little bit about yourself and then have a question. First, Heather, welcome to the Moms Club.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Heather.
I'm actually a realtor in Austin, Texas. So funny. So we can talk about moving here.
Yes.
I'm good friends with Julie Orchid. Our children grew up together and went to school together for a brief while. And I have my office is all about Willie Nelson. He's kind of the king of my office. Tiffany, I really enjoyed following you. I followed you on Instagram this weekend to learn more about you and kind of see what you're about. And I'm really interested, like, I know you said you take Sundays for yourself.
Yes.
But I'm a mom, I have a career, I've, volunteer, I do all kinds of things. And I always feel like I didn't get something done every day. And how do you prioritize that? I mean, what does that look like for you? Because you also work out quite a bit. I mean, you've got quite a following as a bodybuilder.
Oh, I think you might be following someone else because I am not a bodybuilder, but I appreciate that. I aspire to better health for sure. That's something that's a goal.
Okay, fake news on Instagram. I am so sorry.
It's okay.
I have been following someone. I've made up a whole story about you.
You're like, she's really interesting. She's different than I thought.
I looked at you and I'm like, something is different.
Right.
I tried to stop.
Yes, you thought she was in.
Okay, so if you were a bodybuilder, in addition to being a teacher and a podcaster,
how would you work it in?
Because iHeart Radio is no joke. I mean, you have to be on your game.
Yes. So again, time management is everything. And one thing that I've learned now in my 40s is to absolve myself of guilt about not completing something on the list. The list is fluid. The list will change day to day, week to week, whatever it may be, whatever increment you're using, and to not beat myself up over the fact that I didn't get to number 4 or 5, or maybe I only got to number 1, and that's okay. I think women, as it is, whether a mom, I am a stepmom, teacher, radio host, real estate agent, whatever it is you may do, we put a lot of importance on the quantity of things we can accomplish and not necessarily the quality. And so I would encourage everyone, including myself, I'm speaking to myself as well, to, again, really focus on how well you do the things that you're able to give your time to, and not as much of stretching yourself thin so that you can check off a bunch of boxes as having done this. Give yourself credit. But when it comes to having some time for yourself, it is imperative that you carve out a couple of hours, and that if it's just sitting in your car, you just drive away, keep the kids with the dad, or if they're old enough to be on their own, or, whatever the case, find some time for yourself. Go sit in your car, go read a book. If you're a doom scroller and you want to scroll the socials. But whatever it is you like to do, take a walk, feed the ducks, work out, not bodybuild. That's not me. I'm not doing that. But whatever it is you like to do it without the guilt of thinking that you're not doing something else because you are giving to yourself. That's probably the thing that I have embraced the most, because I do a lot. And I'm not going to be able to do a perfect lesson every time with my students. And each one of my radio shows is not going to be flawless. But hey, at least I have them. At least I have the opportunity. You know, at least these kids are getting something. So
Right.
Don't beat yourself up. You know, and I don't know if I'm not suggesting you do that, but I would say if you have any guilt, to try your best to release that. And I hope that doesn't sound hokey, because it is like the most freeing thing.
I think that's good advice. In fact, now I feel better about when I wrote my son's 8th grade English paper telling him that I could get an A because he was struggling with it and he ended up getting a B. I'm going to release that. You know?
Release that guilt.
He went on to college. It's all good. So,
Use Chat GPT next
yeah,
time.
but I do like.
Oh,
because
that thing's
Do
amazing.
you know what happens a lot of times is we need to tell our families, I'm going to take some time for myself.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm literally going to, because what happens is your husband comes home and he's like, well, what have you been doing all day? Well, and then you give him the list, and the list doesn't sound that exciting. Well, I had to go fix the mailbox, and then I had to go do this, and then but it's a lot.
It's a lot.
And so it gets to you. And so I think first you got to say, I'm going to take the time
yeah.
to do that.
Absolutely. You
Yeah.
know, and again, women, we put so much pressure on ourselves to do everything. And if we don't do one thing, we're like, dang, I didn't do it. And my day is now ruined, or I feel lackluster in some way. And like you said, if you itemize everything we do, oh my gosh, the list is long and it's ever expanding, and it puts other lists to shame. And that's just our normal day-to-day activity, just as women, everything that we do and how selfless we are. So you have to regain that part of you that's okay with being a little selfish. It's not selfish in the negative sense. It's doing for yourself, taking care of you.
What's your favorite thing to do, since it's not bodybuilding?
Not
What is it?
bodybuilding
But what
at
is it?
all.
What if you have that time to yourself, what do you like to do?
You know, I love long walks on the beach. You know, no, I do love long walks on the beach, but I love to read. I love to read. I don't do nearly as much of it just because of my attention. I end up doing something else, but I love to read. I love to be with my dogs. I love to visit my mom. I love to spend time with my partner, my fiance. Museums. We love to just find a museum and walk through. But if it's just me, I am perfectly fine sitting on the couch and watching Netflix. I just started a new series, and I'm very happy to sit in front of the TV for 2 hours and to watch, you know, episode after episode with a nice drink or something, juice or whatever it may be.
Sounds
But just,
nice.
you know, just to really just kind of veg out and disconnect from everything and just enjoy.
I can relate to that. Kim, welcome to the Moms Club. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and do you have a question for Tiffany?
Sure. So I am Kim Coley, and I am from North Carolina. So I can completely understand about the fires, because we've been dealing with Western North Carolina,
Yes.
the hurricane,
Yes.
and then the whole political thing. So I got that
Yeah.
completely. I feel for you. And I first want to go back and just thank you for acknowledging your producer, and that it's a team effort. So many times we as women forget the other women that come along and help us, you know, and whether it's over the wall or make us look good or edit our stuff. And I appreciate that about all you do. Instead of tooting your own horn, you acknowledge that you've got help.
Yes.
And you appreciate that, which I think it just, when you ingratiate other people, it opens yourself up to receive that back. And so I want to thank you for that. And then I want to ask, how did you get to decide or come to that these were the people you wanted to spend these years with? How did you decide on this career path when obviously you had so many different choices? How did you come to the conclusion you wanted to spend 8 hours a day with 8th and 9th graders?
Not easily. Teaching is a lot. It is next
It is a
to
lot.
parenting. It is probably the most challenging job in the world. And I really, truly believe that my school, my students, they chose me. When I got there, I had interviewed for the job. I was selected from a pool of applicants. I did the whole process. But once I got in, to be able to stay and affect positive change, they had to accept me. So the fact that they accepted me was tantamount to any application process. You know what I mean? So it really does feel like I was chosen. And once I earned their respect, we created a culture in the classroom that has carried over year after year. And my students who come into my classroom expect that culture. And my students who then leave my classroom reminisce about that culture. So it's a culture that has been cultivated, and it's one that I'm proud of. And it's one that is definitely built on just like that acknowledgement that none of us can do it by ourselves. And you spoke to that, Kim, and I appreciate you for saying that and for acknowledging my producer. And the same thing goes for my students. And teaching them that you can't do this on your own is important, because so many of them, based on the nature of why they're even in my class, have dealt with a lot of emotional trauma. And now a cornerstone of who they are has become, and what I work to combat, but it's become kind of pushing people away. And to get them to trust again involves them understanding that you can't do everything by yourself. You're not alone in this, and you create your tribe. You know, this is my tribe, and I love it. Like I'm one of those teachers, and not to like pat myself on the back, but I'm one of those teachers who we're done with the day and I'm not ready to leave. You know what I mean? My kids are, it could be a really stressful day. Don't get me wrong. It is not perfect. And I have my days, because these are kids who, you know, they got in trouble at their previous schools for major outbursts and violence and other things. And even on those days, I can sit at my desk and say to myself, I love being here, because I know that these are moments that are fleeting. At the core, what we are creating is a family, and they take that. So spending 8 hours with them feels like spending 8 hours with my family. And you don't want to leave your family. You love your family. I have a family. So I get to go between two arenas that I love, you know, two different environments that I love. So spending time with them, it's not a chore. I'd like to speak really quick to what's happening in North Carolina, and I feel for you. And I honestly, Kim, I do not think that you guys are getting nearly enough press about what you're going through. I would have loved for the Grammys last night to acknowledge what's happening, and for other platforms to acknowledge what's happening in your state. You are getting overshadowed, and it is very unfair, because you have been dealing with this for many, many months now. And people are still in, I believe, in the convention centers and dealing with the homelessness. And so I really feel for you, and I hope that the tide starts to change and that you do get the attention that your state deserves. And my heart just goes out to all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
You're welcome.
I agree as well. We, on our website, so we put a call out for moms to help when the LA fires happened. And so we put resources on our website inside themomsclub.com. And there's a button there for all the resources in California. We're adding another section for North Carolina, because we do feel like it hasn't gotten the attention. I mean, and that's the thing too. It was interesting because being in Texas when all this was going on, and having so many friends and our producers and everyone being out in Los Angeles, and it was very real to everyone here as it was happening. But you know when they say in the news, if it bleeds, it leads. And that's kind of what the thing is. Yeah. And so when I was talking to people out here, and they were still very much experiencing it, and then they would say, well, do you want to put this on social media or that? I'm like, you know what? They've kind of moved on, sadly, already. The next thing is happening. And, you know, and that's unfortunate. So I really hope we keep the focus on everybody that needs help like that, because we can do so much, you know, we can do so much good. And I also appreciate you supporting your producer too. And I'll tell you, I wrote a book with a Wall Street Journal reporter called Come Back Moms, and we interviewed 100 women across the country, and it was about staying home with your kids and how you navigate that and stay connected to your job and your family. And we've interviewed all these women, and part of the interview would be, who's the worst boss you ever had? And it was always a woman. And finally, my co-author said, are we writing the wrong book? Should we be writing a book about how women need to support each other
Right.
and help each other and speak up for each other? So I commend you. That is says
Thank
a lot.
you.
So I think
Thank
that's a
you.
great thing. Emily, so this is our Zoomer daughter, who's actually my niece, Emily.
Hi, Emily.
And she is here. She is currently childless, from at least what she's told the family. We don't know of anybody.
Yes.
Tell Tiffany a little bit about yourself, and do you have a question?
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, I do have a question. My question is, what is the biggest lesson that you've learned from your students? Because obviously, I'm sure you teach them a lot. So I'm wondering what you've learned from them.
Oh my goodness. Emily, first of all, how insightful are you and mature are you to be here today, to give your time and to participate in this? So that says a lot about who you are and your bright future.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hope to see you up here one day, right?
I hope so.
You know, there are lots of lessons that my kids teach me, my students teach me, but one that comes to mind is one that I practice with them often, which is do not be too proud to apologize. And it came from modeling. What I learned with them is that in their lives, adults have done a lot of wrong, and very few of those adults have ever atoned or taken accountability or apologized for whether something small or something greater in scale. So my students came to me more or less used to people just doing things and never, again, acknowledging the hurt that they cause. And what I made sure to do is that however small the mistake was, if there was something that I needed to apologize for, to let them know, you know, hey, I'm sorry, I spoke over you when you raised your hand. I shouldn't have done that. I apologize. And they're like, whoa, you know, can you imagine like a teacher is acknowledging that they spoke over me or that they didn't call on me or I had my hand up too long or that I made a mistake about something or this kid did the thing and you said it was me, you know, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And they're like, what? So what I've learned is the importance of doing that. I had it in my mind to do because I'm a grown up. We should apologize. But the importance of doing that with children is something that they have really codified or strengthened. And I thank them for that. I really, really do. You know, to the point now that if I do anything, they're like, you didn't apologize. You didn't say that you're sorry. And I'm like, don't you weaponize. Don't you throw it back at me. But they're you know, and I love it. I love it because I am contributing to who they are as people. And I for the time I have them in the classroom, just like when you're with your teachers, what your teachers should aim to do is to help you be the best you possible for that very short amount of time before we release you back to your families and into the world. So I'm like, math is important. History is important, sure. But personality building stuff, that is where it's at. So the power of apology.
Which is a very good practice and lesson. I've always wondered with teachers, so you have them for 8 hours a day and you love having them and they're in 8th and 9th grade and society says they can't stay with you forever.
Yeah.
So how does that feel when they move to do you ever think, oh, I miss my class?
Oh God.
You know, like how do you keep up with, like you said, you still know the 5th graders now.
Yeah.
So some of your 8th and 9th graders are now in
seniors,
college.
college. Yeah,
senior.
absolutely. I absolutely keep up with them. I am friends with my 3rd grade teacher who is, you know, well past retirement. And relationships are important. So knowing that you could have that kind of relationship with a teacher in your adulthood is something that I look forward to with my students. So I keep up with them in hopes that I'll be able to see them have their kids and see them get into their careers. But I cry every graduation. I'm the sap, I'm the one who does the yearbook. I'm the one who's crying all the time. They're used to it by now. But you really do get attached. You should.
Oh,
and that's why I'm like,
absolutely.
you're spending you're spending all this time with these kids, and you get to know them, and they get to know you very well. And it really does feel like an extension of family. And so it is hard to give them to the next class. And I do worry about their retaining what I've taught them and not just academically, but emotionally as well. And I keep up as best as I can, keep up with the families, the parents, of course. And I think sometimes I bug them too much, but I really want to know how they're doing. So,
it would be cool to still be as an adult, be friends with your third grade teacher.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in third grade, if we saw our teacher like at the grocery store, it was almost an out of body experience.
Yeah,
This can't possibly.
I know.
Why is this
why
person?
are they here? Oh
And
my God.
Yeah, like
You're not at school?
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, you like
so
that's
to
where
make
you live.
friends with them would be just a
Really
a
Mr. Mitchell is my third grade teacher's name.
Oh.
And he just moved to Idaho, and he is enjoying retirement. And I love him like a parent. I've known him for a long time, and he is great.
Well, that is wonderful. We had Mrs. Moody as our fourth grade teacher.
We both had her.
She was a tough piece of work. But you know
You know
what?
what?
I appreciate everything she taught me.
She
Yeah.
was the one that
She
made
was-
you line your desk up on those tiles. There
Oh.
should be
We
3
didn't
tiles
realize-
between this side and
Every
2
day.
tiles. And so you're like,
We didn't
Yes.
realize she had OCD. It was not something. But anyway, we learned a lot from
Yeah,
her. So
yeah.
we had some really great
we
teachers.
learned about high standards.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Anxiety as well,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
we got that too. But anyway, well, no, it's been so great to have you here.
Thank
I
you.
am so honored that you joined us today. And
I'm honored. Thank
for
you.
those of you in Los Angeles, KFI AM 640, you want to hear a show there. And on iHeart Radio, you get to hear it on Saturdays with Tiffany from 5 to 7. And where else can we find you on social media?
You can find me on social media at my correct Instagram, right, Heather? And that is at Tiff Hobbs on here. Tiff Hobbs on here. You can find me on Facebook, Tiffany Hobbs. There is another Tiffany Hobbs. That's the one you're talking about. I'm trying to figure out how to get her pushed further down
yes.
in the algorithm.
That's that wannabe actress.
Yeah,
I know who that is.
exactly. I need to put my middle initial in there or something. But yeah, you can find me on social media, and I'm very happy to engage with you. Everything is public. Please say hi. I would really enjoy that. And yeah, if you would love to or enjoy listening to a radio show that is insightful and keeps you up to date on current news, then you can listen from 5 to 7 p.m. on the iHeart app or KFIAM640.com. And if you are in Los Angeles, you can listen on AM 640 on your radio dial. Thank you, Emily, Heather, and Kim.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies. It's been great. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you very much.
And thank our sponsor, New Calm, which I use it every night to sleep. It's an app that you can use to relieve stress. You can focus with it. You can exercise with it. And the great news for moms is that if you put Moms Club in the code at checkout, you get 15% off every month of your subscription. And it really, really works. So definitely check out New Calm. Well, Lisa, you did pretty good. I thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's
I'm
fun.
sure you're going to want to do this again and again and again. And
Yes, of course. I have
you're
lots
gonna
of
have to have a
questions.
word with
I get to meet
Julie about
awesome
that.
people like you. Yes.
Yes, yes. So
Thank you.
thank you so
I can,
much.
take Julie out in traffic, I guess.
Lisa. No. Well, maybe we'll just have more than one co-host. I don't know.
Yeah, there we
Well,
go.
Anyway, thank you
I love
thank you
Julie.
for joining us. Well, ladies, I can't believe that our time has passed, but we're going to be back again next time with celebrities and extraordinary moms just like you. And we know all your me time is precious and valuable. Thank you so much for spending it with us. Remember our motto. It's very important. If you don't laugh sometimes, you are going to cry. And if your class didn't get you Kleenex, then you're going to be in really big trouble. So laugh, ladies. We'll see you next time inside the Moms Club.